Yeah, it's us. Do you know how much you are being manipulated for supposedly influencers, other YouTubers, behavioral people, and lawyer, and more? What if I tell you people actually do not hate Elaine as much as they say they hate her, and people like Camille not as much as you think they like her? And it's a difference between women and men, how they like and hate Camille and how they like and hate Elaine. Hi, my name is Susan Ibitz. I'm a human behavior hacker. Some people hack computers, I hack humans, and I have fun doing it. Elba.
Hi everyone, my name is Elba. I'm a human behavior hacker too, and I'm the CEO of Latin America. And with my sexy voice, you need to bear with me all the show because I had COVID. So
second time?
The second time in 6 months. So yeah.
And all your family and everybody, extended families.
The COVID house. So yeah.
Everything out there. So today we bring our partners from Emotion Tracks. We're going to be showing you the secret sauce that we use and some of the things, and we have been showing you. We have Dawn talking about makeup. We have Tracy talking about forensic accounting. We have Dave talking about PR crisis. We have lawyers, Lincoln, we have Jesse talking about defamation. We're talking about evaluation, open, closing statement. But I do think this is the cherry of the pie. We decide no more about this BS, but you ask for it. And because this show is for you, about you, we bring it. Again, today we're going to talk about, beside what people think is the perception on the media, that's the reason you're not going to trial, you're not going to do a research, you're not going to go to any situation for what only you read on the media. Is what really people think when they put in the head on the pillow. So if you think everybody hate Camille or love Camille, or everybody hate Elaine or love Elaine, I would say look at the data, because from my perspective, I think this is one of the best shows because we decide to get naked, show you how we do it and why we do it, and we're gonna put it all out there. Elba?
Yeah, I think the same. It's like we have been always saying, our straight eyebrows, I needed the facts and the data. So I love this part because now we know what we do with the data. Now we have the data, we have the numbers, we have everything. Now in the behavioral point, we can know how to address the things and start building the road.
So this is show number 1. Next Monday, you're going to see show number 2 when we're going to be talking about the influence and be more vulnerable and what Johnny won. We're going to be talking about influence. We're going to talk about Milgram experiment. We're going to talk about how your memories and the people can be influenced. And more important, you need, when you have 2 labels, guilty and not guilty, as soon as you put the guilty label in somebody else, automatically the other person is going to be labeled not guilty. Nerdy, facts, data, behavior, we got it, but we decide this week, and next week we're gonna go naked. We show you how we get done. So if you haven't hated us yet, probably you won't today. If you want to know and be more informed about your decisions, we ask you to be until the end of the show because it's a lot of information that's going to help you to make better decisions and not take everything on the media and happen, and take everything with a little grain of salt and do a lot more research. My love, I see you at the end.
Yes.
Okay, guys, that word nerd meet data, data meet bias. If you believe everything that happened on the media, you have a more than one problem. But let's educating you what is the difference between your emotions, what you read by influencers, and what data is telling us. And for that reason, we pairing with our good friends of the Emotion Tracks to tell you what's really going on between what you says and what you think when you put the head on the pillow. Shelly, we're so happy to be 3 nerd ladies together. Tell us what is a modern emotion track and what is not, because people think that face recognition is the same that emotion tracking, and you tracking emotion, you don't care how the face look like.
Not really. Facial recognition is more about reading and identifying who the person is, and people use it, police use it, airports use it, and things like that. When you're trying actually to discriminate or profile somebody, what we use is something called FACT, which is facial action coding system, which is basically the coding of facial emotions, micro expressions specifically, and those change as you connect with some sort of stimulus. And our tool measures all those very, very small nuances and changes that are happening in your face, which then translate to sentiments. And that's what we measure. So we use facial activation recognition software to measure the micro expressions, and those translate to human sentiments. And I just want to give it a little plug, is that outside of it all being validated generally, which we don't need to discuss, I do want to say, if you are familiar at all with the show Lie to Me, that's also Lie to Me, and Bull, those are kinds of shows that we would be a resource for them, instead of them using a mock jury or how they use and test out all of their hypotheses. They could come to Emotion Track and use our tool.
Yeah, and by the way, for the ones interested on the data, this is going to be a upper brush of what the data have. We have real time how people react to all the micro expressions. What are the PowerPoints of each of the interviews that we're going to be showing today? But to make it accessible and digestible, we simplify the data. But like Shelly says, if you think the Lie to Me and Dr. Bull and CBS is BS, you don't know how complex it is when you're going to put someone on the street. We have been working in political consulting for a long, long time, even helping companies to determine if the message they're putting out there and how people are engaged with the videos and the presentation and the commercials. In this case, we have been following both companies, what happened on the media with the trial, what witness on expert was credible, but we cannot share that data because let's say that we were doing that for somebody else. But now we can talk about how the lawyers were perceived on the media using a similar pattern of pool of people than they were on the jury. So what you're going to see now is, do you really think that you like Camille and you hate Elaine? Do you think men and women perceive information on the same way? Let me tell you, this is the show that's going to draw the line between you hate us and like us. But before you determine you hate us, go to the data until the end and go with us. And the next slide, Shelly is going to explain us what are the parameters from hours of data that we have. We're going to explain to you, because it's credibility and what is the other one? Likability. Okay, guys, let's go to the slide. And this is my nerd side. I love it.
Let's go to the numbers.
Go to the numbers.
Because numbers don't lie.
And Elba loves facts and data. Her eyebrows say.
That's the best part for me. Facts and data. I need the facts and the data. Yes.
Girl, give me the numbers.
Here's the data.
Okay, Shelly, let's go to the numbers. What are the things that we measure here and how we're going to be measuring them?
So basically, we had two panel audiences, and we were testing among those two panel audiences the attributes of likability and the attributes of credibility to determine how likable and or how credible both Elaine and Camille were perceived to be. And the stimulus was basically each of the attorneys being interviewed by a major news station. We prepared that into a video. Our respondents watched that video in entirety and then answered some questions. So we're going to be looking basically at 3 buckets of information. We're going to look at some overall metrics, which is a quick snapshot as to how people related to each of those attorneys. And secondary, we're going to look at actual ratings for likability and credibility. And then we can pose some hypothesis, which you can, if you want to go for a deep dive with us, we can do that.
Go to the webinar.
Yes.
Yep, go to the webinar.
Yeah,
but
because
in broad strokes, looking at broad strokes to try to, see if, how your opinions, line up with what we determined. So we're good.
Shelley, the only data that I want to inform to the people before we show the secret sauce is an average is between 90 to 96 people per testing that you did. So it's not 5 people saying what they think. We went deeper, like almost 100 people by measurement.
People. Yep, absolutely. And we do 100 people in the survey, and we balance it out to the rest of the US population, so that moving forward, anybody who's a data nerd like we are might want to use it. Might want to use it for doing other forms of analysis, but knowing that differences that are like 3 or 4 points are significant. So yes, but we're not going to do that now.
We keep it simple. The 3 of us, we get to only to let you know. Do you know that it takes us more than 2 hours to record the show and this section? You know why? Because the 3 of us were going to studies, Paul Ekman, David Matsumoto, and all the nerdiness. So guys, we simplify for you, because if we were to record the other 2 hours, you are way going to sleep at this point. So let's go to the numbers. And again, you see, I measure with the tech. Why I always do the same? Here we go. First one.
Okay, so our first pass in looking at the data is we look at essentially, are there any red flags or pain points in that commentary that was being shared on the video? And we look at that through metrics, and the 3 metrics that we pull are truth, attention, and believability. It's never about the messenger in this context. We are measuring truth as to how the audience perceives how truthful the content is, how attentive and interesting that content is for the audience, not appeal. And then the artifact of those 2 is believability. And if we look at how well Elaine did, and we look on average, okay, we can see that the numbers show us that for attention and believability, men and women were almost at parity, no issues there. Here we look at truth, and we see that men are definitely scoring and trending at only 7 in 10 men versus 8 in 10 women, feeling that Elaine's content and commentary is delivering the truth. So there's definitely
I'm going to make a pause. So for everybody says that everyone hate Elaine, one thing is how you are manipulated on the media on personal bias and personal experience.
Absolutely.
But another is the sign measurement, what you really think about. So again, you cannot go against science. You can go against personal biases. And in this case, you don't care what we think. We don't care what we think. We go into our nerd science hat to bring you this. None of this information reflect our personal experience or our personal beliefs with this data. This is raw nerd data. So for all of you sent, nobody believe Elaine, nobody think Elaine's telling the truth. At the end of the day, who are supposed to be hating Elaine the most are the ones who are not so much. Remember, pink for ladies, blue for gentlemen. Hello, Shelley?
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. There is, it's an interesting imbalance that's going on. And honestly, for all the haters that are out there, if everyone says they hated Elaine, I think that she would have got lower scores overall among both men and women. So even the fact that they might hate her, there's definitely, 7 in 10 men said, yeah, she's telling the truth. So you can hate her all you want, but if she's telling the truth, right? If they feel that, you can't change that. So
we here measure truth, attention, and belief on that person. It's funny that she didn't grab attention. Maybe she wasn't entertaining enough.
Yeah, so because that benchmark, that average is about a 50. So she gets a little bit more attention from the men. And I think it's also, when you think about Elaine, she's set up as a woman, defending a woman, and the other side is a woman defending a man. So I have to imagine that emotionally and subconsciously, attitudes are going to be maybe even inverse or crossed over, or how presented. Amber Heard was a popular, beautiful model, right? You'd think that there would be so much. I didn't see anybody who looked at her happy. No one who looked at Amber Heard was happy. She didn't have a fan club. Johnny Depp had a fan club, so, and he had a double fan club. He had a fan club for his lawyer and for himself. So public perception, again, I think a lot of that was based on appearance,
Well, one of the jurors who show up this week on the media, and again, you need to narrow how much data you're going to be analyzing, is that one of the jurors who spoke and says that we feel that Johnny Depp law firm were working together when Amber Heard team was like to try to grasp some air on the surface because they were drowning. So when do you think that the only important person on a trial is your testimony, is your lawyers, your witness, your expert, and who is labeled first, that we're going to be talking today too, that these guys is data. Anything else, Shelly, you're going to go, or we're going to see how Camille, because everybody were like, I love Camille. Let's see what happens.
Right. So let's see how people felt about Camille.
Okay. There we go.
In contrast. So,
interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So really,
she is the heroine here. What happened here with the data?
She should just be wearing a symbol of truth, on every single interview that she has, and waving some flags, because she is definitely absolutely equated with telling the truth. And what's interesting is that across the board, the numbers are pretty close for male and female. So it seems that her presentation and her representation certainly was very, emanated very truthful vibe to both men and women at the same time, at an 80% level, which if we, look back against the men, for Elaine, men were at its 60s, and here men are in the 80s. So we've definitely changed up the statistic for men by offering, what Camille had to say on the case. Regarding attention, I think that, as we said it earlier, of course, she's going to get more attention. I think the score actually represents how much men like her physically, rather than how much attention her testimony arouses. But you get a 55 with a benchmark of a 50.
Well, Shelley, we talk about that the attractive women has nothing to do with age. No. You can have an extremely attractive woman under 60 or not attractive under 20, but attractive women get better service, better rate, and they're an attractive woman wearing glasses and makeup have a better reception in a job interview than women who are not considered attractive. So glasses, makeup, and attractiveness get you better, but it doesn't reflect on the scores of men. Men who are attractive, they don't and are not perceived to take in as much advantage as women can have. So it's more important to be attractive than beauty when you need to track attraction. And I think attraction and attention coming on the same score, because we have been analyzing data with you guys before. And when people says like, but it's not an attractive woman, but get attention. The way they present themselves is quirky, funny, reliable, so that get attention. And that's where we're reflecting. Elaine it looked like a grandmother blend. Camille utilized her personality. Camille showed that in a way that was elegant, but it still get attention beside her age and attractiveness.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh no, it's like comparing like vanilla ice cream to like rum raisin or something, just even the sophistication and the way she approached everything was just, very classy. And definitely Elaine, every time, I think she had a stronger appearance in court, but every time she went for an interview, she tended to downplay herself a bit. She was never extraordinary in anything that she said. When she was being interviewed, I don't think she exuded a lot of confidence. I think she just talked details.
Another reason you need to data to prepare. Yeah, this is not the court. This is the media. Right. So when you have the data like you guys provide, that's where behavioral coming like, okay, you create a court, but we need to translate that to make you likable and keep this trout on the media, and you're not. Shelley?
Exactly. So what I think also I want to add is that although we've been making all this commentary that men found, Camille more physically attractive, excuse me, these are scores that are measured, as we mentioned, subconsciously, unconsciously, passively. So it's not, and it's very difficult for you to hide those emotions because, as I mentioned, they happen 2 seconds before you actually can even speak them or articulate them. The face is making those micro expressions instantaneously at the content. And that's the numbers that we have recorded here. So yes, even if men wanted to say, oh no, I'm a big feminist, I don't like Camille because she's attractive. Well, this is the data. So, end of story.
And Shelley, I don't know, Shelley Elba, what do you think? That men believe Camille more than women? Whoa, what's going on here? I know maybe for you guys, the number is not too much, 5 points, but when you are analyzing from behavioral standpoint, the change you need to make, that is a huge 5% is a lot and such a high number. If the number wouldn't be lower, I would be so concerned. Shelley?
I think they attributed more to Camille as a man because they had more writing on the deal as a man. Camille was representing a man. So I think that they bonded with her not only for any physicality or intellectually, but because they emoted with her being potentially a representative for them if they were ever in that kind of scenario before. We see that behavior very often, where they will give kind of this halo effect over where they attribute, greater characteristics or more positive characteristics based on, their own personal theories kind of thing. So it's not, but this projectability of men wanting to believe Camille, because if they would be in that situation, they'd also want the jury to believe, the lawyer. So I think that's about them very much, seeing themselves in that situation.
Okay, if you're spooky enough, audience, and you want to know more and you're ready to start having like your blood get boiled, wait for it. Are we ready for the next slide, ladies?
We are, absolutely.
Okay, grab in your seat. If you're seeing this, pause, grab a drink because you're going to need it. Because this information, I was difficult to digest when we saw the data, like, what the heck is going on? This is what's going on. Shelley, this is mind freaking blowing. What is going on with Elaine? And I'm more surprised with the high numbers on Elaine than the low number. But what happened with the men? Everybody have a fantasy with their grandmother? Sorry, maybe that's incorrect, but I'm sorry for thinking about it, but not for saying it, or vice versa. I don't know. Go for it.
You know what? At first I looked at it and I looked at it that way. Oh, what are men seeing in Elaine that's so positive? But then I actually looked at it from the opposite prospect. I think women just don't like her at all. And in reference to where the men stand, women are definitely less likely to feel positively, positive attributes for her. What's interesting though, is that she's given full credit for being respectable, because, every woman wants to consider, a woman respectable. That's very good. And authentic. And those are the only two categories of likability. Let me just go back and say that we measure this array of likability qualities. They all seem to, they've been validated from our research scientists that they all compose a good likability snapshot. So each one of these is a statement that respondents had to agree with. So this was the highest level of agreement. So this is exactly, agreeing like 100%. And when we look at it, we have extremely respectable, extremely authentic, and women give credit to Elaine for that. You're fine. You probably did a really good job. You had great time in law school. You're an excellent student. But for the rest of it, how do we feel about you? This is the emotional stuff. They don't really like her very much. I mean, you have ability to see justice served. Yes, albeit it's after the fact that she lost, but wow, only 30% of all women believe that this lawyer who has been on national TV representing a national, personality, only 3 in 10 people think that she can deliver service. And definitely her tone, her attitude all the time to the public. She's not seen as empathetic. She doesn't make a good first impression. Her demeanor is the same. I mean, every one of them is never, she doesn't even make it to half of the audience. She doesn't get traction from at least. She's a woman, right? And she's defending a woman. So you'd think that she would get a lot more positive, at least, halo effect kind of thing.
But you want to know, the first impression is from all the charts, and I have my sharing bar from Zoom that happened when you do it. My more like wow effect was like extremely respectful from women. Women respect her. That is a surprise. The second one is the first impression, and I would say the third one is nice demeanor. Elva, I keep you, and for everybody know, we talk about Elva has been a rough week. Yeah. She have COVID, all her family, kids, parents around, everybody have COVID. So it's a miracle that we have Elva here. So she's being quiet today. But in your personal, which are the three of you that you like wow effect? So Shelly can help us to understand this.
Okay, for me, the first one, it was respectable. The second one, it was honest. And the third one, it was first impression.
Okay, so we don't agree on nice demeanor. Yeah, she looked more honest between men, because men are very liars and they try to get away. Ooh, that is another show. But yeah,
she does have a poker face, Elaine. She can do that, resting bitch face very well, and she does that during interviews. So when you hear her, she does not seem to want to arouse empathy at all. I mean, that's the one since we do measure emotions and, talking about the depth of emotions and what drives those, we'll talk about it, at a webinar. But to me, I look at empathy, because I think that all the rest are they're all subjective, except maybe respectable and authentic, because that you can get from training and expertise. But the others are about their personality or their persona and their ability to deliver someone they connect with. And okay, we don't often all make a great first impression. And maybe it's a bad day for me. I have a shitty demeanor. And, I don't know, maybe I don't have a good poker face. But when I look at empathy, I say, wow. She can't even get half of her own kind to feel that she exudes empathy. There's no way she'd ever be hired by a woman then. That's for sure. And the fact that men, okay, so they're slightly higher, they're in the 40s. And even if they like her to some extent, again, they can't even attract 50% of an audience to see that that she's empathetic. So I think the fact that she's not empathetic, to me, that's like the big aha moment from this snapshot. So
okay, everybody want to see Camille now?
Oh yeah.
Okay, how does she get for empathy? Yeah, Camille.
And I'm sorry, Shelby, but I try to keep it lame terms to everybody to understand, because I do know that we can spend 3 or 4 hours in each slide. And again, I want people to, okay, I like the presentation because I hate it, love it. I agree or disagree with the data. So we can go to the webinar. It's going to be a longest webinar. We're going to specialize and we're going to talk about the data, and we're going to talk about the hypothesis, and we're going to be talking about the behavioral wise, what it means. And since we have the data, we're going to go deeper and deeper and show studies what it makes sense, the data we see. So is any other information gathering here? We go into Camille. That's everybody know about Elaine.
Now with bated breath, because we know how they've trashed Elaine, but okay.
Okay.
Okay, wow. So even if you didn't remember any of the numbers by heart, you can at least visually get a quick take. I do want to mention that the y-axis in the previous chart didn't go higher than a 60. No one made it to a 60. Here, this chart trends to an 80, and you can see where we could barely eke out 3 or 4 in 10, either men or women, to excuse me, to advocate, or to be find the character likable. Camille, absolutely. I mean, she's nearly 7 in 10 every single time. So,
Shelley, one question: when you have emotions that not go to the above average, it make the same day data wise of they are above average, because Elaine don't go above average, but Camille go above average, but with the same finish line. Makes sense? So
right.
We have under 60 and we have over 60, but they're fighting on the top.
Right. So just generally speaking, the way that this data appears, it defaults to presenting this y-axis to go to the highest metric. So, so I think that the overall looking at the two snapshots is that there's just not a lot of traction on any account, which means I would give likability to Camille. If I had to give her a grade, I'd give her a B-. If I have to give Camille a grade, I'm going to say 7 out of 10. She's a B+ to an A-.
Wow.
Hello,
lady.
If I have to grade them, I mean, it's interesting considering she was the winner. She doesn't get as many points for being extremely persuasive or honest.
No.
And let's remember to people that we have every database, every data points that we have here is 100 people doing this test. So it's not 3, 4, that is not enough data. Again, emotion track went through a way expand on the test that we do regularly, like they always does. But in this case, because we choose to put our secret sauce as a consultants out there, we reviewed the data. Then it took us a week to do it. Like it feel like a year for all the meetings that we have.
Because it was.
It took us a week because we reviewed the data so many times to make sure that we had it right. Because in the beginning, we were surprised too, because we were like in the bias, like, are you really? But none of them score above 80s. I was expecting Camille to go to the 100s, 90s, maybe above 80s. But Camille never hit any above 80s on the percentage. It's crazy. Barely make the 70s. The highest is 74 and authentic.
So funny. You're the empty glass and I'm the full glass, but it's a full glass. It's a full glass compared to Elaine. Camille, she blows. She really, really commands likability way more than Elaine does. However, you are right, and what's not funny, but what is not surprising is that she makes a good first impression, and nice demeanor is all about her physicality. Those are the ones that score well, okay, extremely authentic. But I will have to say that in this snapshot, the fact that men and women emote or, are appealing or find Camille likable and appealing are nearly at the same rate. So that's fabulous. So I would even take her 7, that she's a 7. And I know you want to downgrade her, but I'd even give her a 7.5 to an 8 in her ability to have parity audience and the ability not to be polarizing, especially, being a female attorney. She could be polarizing. There could be misogynist men. There could be, women not, that kind of thing going on, but it's not happening. She looks like she can appeal, how does she, justice serve 7 and 10. Okay. But she's still got a couple of offers from some big law firms anyway.
But you know what, Shelley, that's what I love about the data, because when I'm coming back from the client, and sometimes we do this tricky that we dress a client and we do the makeup or no makeup in a certain way, and we do the opposite. We evaluate 2 groups, and sometimes like I love and believe this person, and like this person who is showing and presenting themselves in a different way get opposite numbers. So when it says like, I don't care how much it says like show up and people are gonna like you, like no, you need to make the context. That's again important to have data. If I would have this data, I want to go deeper and like, okay, what are the measurements in this chart? Then I need to make sure they're higher, because we have a majority of women on the stand. So again, if now I have the jury, I cannot decide the jury I'm going to have beforehand of a trial. We agree, ladies. Now, I
course.
do know the jury. What we do with Shelley and emotion track is, okay, guys, we have X amount of Asian, X amount of men, X amount of women, X amount of American natives, second generation, whatever. Let's look for a pool of mirror jurors, and let's put this lawyer, this client, this witness, and this expert in different, like completely mirroring the jurors' appeal, cultural and opposite, and see what is strike. I do want attention. Some people were saying that some jurors were doing this like snooze, and some in testimony. I want attention, I want credibility, I want honesty. So I'm gonna use those measurements to see which one I need to work, what I need above 80 and what I need below 60. So again, this is how to work with the numbers. So even though I'm the only Jew person and I know is horrible with numbers, I use my numbers when I need to get people. That's what I love about you guys, because you give me something tangible that I can work with.
Right. Right. Well, I'll tell you, you pointed to the fact, and that we haven't actually spoken about it too much, but what's great about Emotion Track as well is that we will also be able to inform and direct you regarding jury profiling and jury selection. So, for example, if I was Camille, I know that she is most likely, to get male and female, reactions from male and female almost at the same level. So if I was looking at an audience, sometimes they're, predominantly female, because females tend to emote more. They're more generous in their payouts, evaluations, and awards. Men tend to be cheaper, the way it goes in their behavior. So it is very interesting in your profiling. So if it was a Camille jury, you'd know that she would get appeal male and female at the same rate. So you could recruit men and female at the same rate. If this was, one of the pieces you use to inform your jury selection. For Elaine, it would be very different. You'd have to really work hard to find and curry interest among women, because obviously men, it's predominantly men that are in her camp, in her camp. So,
what's funny, whatever team we would be working with, it struck me that how much Elaine changed when she need to be on the TV. And believe it or not, she was the most seasoned lawyer from all of them. She's 68. She published a book that Larry freaking King did the intro. So she's not a novice. She's well seasoned. She knows what she's doing. But until she didn't see herself on the media influence, she changed her hair, the color, she had makeup, she had everything done to be on the media. So if we wouldn't have this information, so sometimes again, the truth to be told, the lie that, you control the jury selection. No, depend on so many. You have the perfect juror and the opposite counsel says, no, I don't want that, because that is going to be your former and going to win. When you never stop. Every day you finish trial, and Shelley and Elba, we have done it. At the end of each trial, we evaluate every day. We bring the findings in the morning to the lawyers, recap, redress. We go into closet. You don't have an idea, guys, how much things going in a trial is worse than a Broadway production. How many things you don't sleep. When we have trials for 10 days, we need to take 10 days off, because the only thing we do is sleep, drink, eat, and have fun, because you get burned out. So the evaluation is day by day, how you're going to be presenting people based on the perception and these numbers. Numbers matter. Shelley, Elba?
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, because at the end of the day, when you have the numbers, you know what to do and where to do it. You know what combination do you need, depending on what you're going to do. So I agree with that. I love data.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Shelley love for it. Let's go to the comparison so people can see the colors. And for the visuals and audits, we are drilling your head. And for the visual, we're showing how it's gone. So what is the comparison? Suppose that we have a client who hire us to do this comparison, Shelley. How you would explain these two charts?
Elaine goes for early retirement.
And, you're good. I like
her. You already, excuse me, you already called her a grandmother, Susan. I mean,
no. I'm says she is portrayed and come up as a grandmother taking care of their grandkids when she shouldn't be more defensive, not protective. That is my grandmother approach, because I have two grandmothers. One was a lion, and the other one's the sweet cop who protect me. I ended up looking like the one, it was a firecracker who lived until 103. So let's be clear.
Exactly. And I think that's what you would get from this chart as well, is that you need, lots of times we use brands and we attach personalities with them, like what would Diet Coke be, a skinny woman, fitness or kind of thing, make personalities. And if I had to do the Camille persona or the Elaine persona, who would you want to be? Of course, you'd want to be Camille. I mean, Camille's got, all the check marks in the right places. And
who says we are not, honey? I don't know you, but
no, I'm talking about the audience, not about us. So when I look at, would I want to be in Elaine? I would not want to be in Elaine, because as especially post-trial now, when she's all engaged in this conversation about domestic violence, which really goes to hurt mankind and men, and look at all these ratings that she gets, these high ratings from men who really find her appealing and likable. So so it's very interesting. You definitely want to be a Camille rather than an Elaine, if all told in a contest.
And I think that is, and I've been there again, when you have those minutes of fame, but we need to understand all these lawyers have a career before, and if they intend to have a career after, I don't know if I want to be represented by a lawyer who's going to be telling, I don't have the money to pay. Remember this, we talk with Dave Oates, and some people says, dude, they show empathy. What show you have been seeing? We need to analyze in a neutral, non-biased way, because we are behavioral and data science companies. So what happened here is you need to understand they need to have a career after. Okay, you won, everybody knows you. Now, do I want the exposure in my case? I want you to talking about things that I'm not sure I'm comfortable talking to. What is the restitution image bias after you do and dig so much dirt in my trial to make me win? Because I won. Now I need to live under a bridge, because you won. I don't lose the money, but I lose everything else that I did in my career. So you need to be careful with so much exposure. And I do think that both lawyers, when under the I don't think that, since Elaine went first to the media, I think that Camille and all the deep team shouldn't have been on the media. When your enemy have a temper, provoke them and don't do nothing. If deep team wouldn't have been on the media, it would be Camille throwing darts like a dragon on their mouth. But when you don't reply, even though when you're replying, you actually telling the other one, now I need to come up because you come up too strong. Not sure.
Me neither. It's not a ghost tragedy.
No, but it would be interesting to see, in 3 to 5 months now, what's their next case, because of all of this is now, well, it's not history yet, it's their current position. So what's going to happen a few months from down here? Are there going to be more women who are going to want to use Camille because she did such a great job, even if it was for a guy? Or and I'll tell you, my surprise was that he didn't choose someone more glamorous to represent him, Johnny Depp. I thought that she was kind of, she was very attractive and pretty, but only I'd give her about a 7 in her physicality. I thought he would get more like a 9.5. 10 would be too much, but
But you know what, Shelley, makes sense, because she wasn't expected to be the way she is. She looked like this sweet girl. Oh, Camille Vasquez. She okay, and suddenly okay, Superman. Nobody knows that Clark Kent was on top of Superman, and nobody expect this Superman. So is the unexpected perspective, like, oh, but this girl, like, she's only 10 years on the law firm. What the heck she's doing on a trial? Maybe she's
Right.
not really good filing cases. Maybe she's not good on the open and the closing. But when you need to decross, she didn't do it. She didn't do examination. She did the cross. And by the way, the unexpected and the wow factor, because like we talked today in the show, she was really good during the cross to label Amber guilty. And as soon as you label in a case that you have guilty and not guilty, you label someone who is guilty, automatically you put the not guilty because it's the only tap and label I have left, not guilty. And she did a really good cross-examination, was like, oh, so first topic. So did you never donate the money? Because that is the strongest. Somebody lying about children's, all pets. They're the three things that you know that they can stimulate somebody to buy a brand, but can make you the enemy number one. Never says, I donate to the children's and care about the children. And suddenly I never did it. And I went to the media bragging about it. She was good in cross and she was unexpected. That's the reason behavior and data work so well, Shelley. That's a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what it is that you have to study it, the behavioral data, because it comes through in an authentic manner. It's not measured by a group of people with group bias, or I ask a bunch of 10 people. It's 100 people in a study with, you know, significant data that can be used in forecasting, moving forward and shaping and informing, you know, strategies. So, absolutely. You know, I like this attribute list. I think that all law firms should maybe integrate that and then, you know, get some ratings, and they'll decide whether to hire you or not, whether you're an Elaine or you're a Camille.
Don't tell anyone. We have done, Shelley. Are we ready for the next one, ladies?
Yes, we are. We are. Let's go look at credibility now.
Elba, I miss your fire. I hope next week you feel better. And we are really, really grateful and appreciate you're here and with us. And now, my girl.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Hello.
Okay.
Hello, Shelley.
So, Elaine, interesting. For all we've talked about, the best quality Elaine is associated with was being confident, which is interesting. And but if we look at these are the basic
below 60, below 60.
Yeah. Okay. So start. Yeah. So, but I just want to say these are the 4 variables, and you can go to any e-jury or any jury consulting. They agree that these are the 4 attributes that would describe or assign credibility or high credibility. So let's see how well they did. So for Elaine, again, nobody even makes it up to a 60% level. The only one that does is women are pulling, you know, striving. If I round it, it becomes 60 for being confident. But in terms of credibility, wow, knowledgeability, which is, you know, you don't have to be likable or trustworthy depending on how you represent yourself, but she wasn't even considered knowledgeable by women. So, you know, that's very troubling. You know, again, do you want to be in Elaine? That she obviously doesn't inspire, not very much likability, not very much trust. But it's interesting that she comes across as confident. And I think that has a lot to do with her facial expressions, not necessarily confident in the information, because that's an inverse here. So not much about Elaine, except that, you know, interesting. I don't know why men tank. Barely 20%, that's barely 2 in 10 men consider her trustworthy. So, you know, those disparate differences really speak to the fact that Elaine, you know, I don't know, she has a troubled relationship, I feel, with the male audience, and the females don't advocate for her enough, you know.
Let me tell you from the behavioral standpoint. So having this data is help us to go through why. The juror who show up this week on the media says that Elaine was interrupted a lot because she didn't have thoughts. So she needs to regroup the questions. And we did a video on the beginning of the trial. And again, if you can go back to all the videos that we have done, you're going to see that we didn't went to the what media says. We went deeper and we give you more tools than now. I think you guys can understand why we did what we did. Where we show how the Johnny Depp team lawyers, there were like, and we speed the camera. Even with the speeding camera, all the lawyers were paced, passing a sticker, goes. Now, we did record all the Amber Heard team, and everybody was like an ant on a maze, all over the place, disorganized, reviewing papers, going back like, do we have more information? Well, we don't know what we're doing. Go up and down. So knowledgeable and trustworthy, I think, has to do with their being interrupted and the perception that they didn't get the shit together. Pardon my French.
They didn't seem prepared. I absolutely
no,
agree.
they have everything just for the last moment. That it looks like okay, they are doing the things on the last moment. They are not prepared. Even the relationship between them, you can see that the Johnny Depp, they were smiling, they were hugging things.
They were
they were together.
Yep.
But if you see the Amber's team, they were all over the place.
She was the whole time she was with her head down so that you could see her crazy spider snake hairdo, and her head was down and she was writing the whole time. And then she got a lot of negative press for kind of, adopting his outfit, mimicking what he was wearing on the last day. But it seemed like Amber Heard versus her own legal team, versus on Johnny's side, everybody, there were hugs, there were smiles. No, he didn't look up a lot or whatever, but you felt a warmer vibe there, a much warmer vibe. Like she was so happy to represent him. She believed in him. There's no question you got that vibe. With Amber Heard, it was like her teacher or her librarian. I can't believe she even chose someone so unglamorous also, I hate to say it, or maybe that was the strategy. Choose someone the opposite of, sexy model Amber Heard and get your grandmother there. So,
and you know what? I was talking with somebody yesterday about that interruptions based on culture. And we're not talking about other countries. We're talking, for example, if you put someone from LA against to somebody from Brooklyn, when I work with lawyers in New York and Brooklyn, I need to put first gear, get double caffeine, because I don't know if they don't interrupt me and I don't interrupt them, we're not having a conversation. When I'm talking with somebody from California, they're not going to interrupt a lot at all. So I need to say, what do you think about that? Like, oh, it's great. I don't agree. And what you didn't tell me, I was allowing you to finish your concept. So what this happened in Virginia, who is the most East Coast, is more aggressive. The perception of the people that she's been interrupted is not being knowledgeable. So you need to understand that who's watching and who is putting things on the media has to do too. Again, cultural behavior has to do with insight in the United States and where we come in. I'm half Jewish, half Italian, born in Latin America, educated in Europe, adult life in the United States. I'm a fruit salad. So I always want to know who is going to be my audience, because it says, oh my God, nobody interrupt me, nobody like me. And if I'm going to California or Oregon or Seattle and like, oh, nobody interrupt me, I'm doing great.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, there's actually a very famous cultural anthropologist. She wrote a book about this interruption kind of things, talking on top of each other. It's definitely East Coast, definitely New York, definitely Jewish. But if you don't,
it's Friday,
right? But you know why they do it. The hypothesis is that the other person shouldn't think that you're not finding them interesting enough to offer conversation. So you just keep talking at them, and you're talking about the same topic. You're just, talking on top of them, but showing them your enthusiasm. So,
and we have 3 type A females who are science nerds and coming from the East Coast. So when people says, why you interrupt Elba so much, like, we're not interrupting, we're talking. We love each other.
How we talk.
We spent 2.5 weeks together in my house. You should have been there like 2 o'clock in the morning, watching documentaries, drinking wine, and like on top of each other. And when we don't interrupt each other, it's like, what is going on? You don't like the topic? So
exactly, you don't like me anymore.
You don't like me anymore? Don't do that to me. I love you to death.
I know, exactly.
Okay,
Culture.
next chart.
Okay.
Let's see,
Yep.
Camille.
Next one. So now how do we have, what's the credibility? What do people perceive as credibility for?
Okay, I need to, guys, in editing, we need a drummer like, I don't do good voices. Okay. Camille, and this is the last one. Bear with us.
You didn't even try. You could have a sound effect on your desk. Why not?
Yeah, I need to get that. I need to get that. I need to get better prepared.
They're selling the on Home Depot, the Law and Order dum dum thing. You could put that on your desk.
Well, you know, you get me excited. Oh, now you get me excited. Give me that. I want that
for you.
Done, done. I love that.
Okay. So if we look at credibility, much like we saw, likability, although credibility and likability don't have to be associative, you can really, you know, find someone extremely credible, but still find them unlikely, like, you know, two of my husbands, but, or actually, yeah, no, they were neither credible nor likable, but, I don't know. But if we're looking at the four qualities that make up credibility, we could see that Camille, once again, you know, champions Elaine on all qualities, and her confidence comes off as a 9 out of a 10. So she's seen as confident, but again, her scores are not, you know, not all in the 9s or the 100s either. So even though she was the winner, she wasn't so likely. She was 8 and 10, not 9 and 10. Her knowledge, even though she won, was slightly diminished. What I think is interesting, though, is that she doesn't do well on trustworthiness. This is credibility of how trustworthy she is.
It's the lowest number. Let's do this, Shelley, so people can understand. The measurements on Camille are from 0 to 100, but the measurements in Elaine, so people don't get confused, is 0 to 60. Camille, we want to give Elaine the perception, but the truth to be told, she's below number. So 0 to 60, and the highest number was 57. Now, when we're talking about Camille, we're going to 0 to 100, and the lowest was 72. A number that Elaine didn't even get near.
No.
To people to understand data and how we analyze data and what numbers on finances has nothing to do with the data when we review it. Girls, you agree with the explanation?
Yes,
absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. I also have to say, you know, once again, likability, men and women are trending almost at the same levels in terms of how they feel about her credibility. So again, you know, if I was trying to vet out lawyers, I would choose the ones that get high marks on credibility, high marks on likability. And those are basically the two buckets, emotionally and subconsciously, that will, in your mind, deliver success. And like, you know, Camille gets, you know, plus marks on both boxes. And Elaine has to work harder, you know, towards her image is definitely not anywhere near the image of Camille. So,
Shelley, can you repeat what are the parameters when we evaluate lawyers that you like the most when you need to choose one to represent?
We usually look at these two buckets of information. This is what I've read, all the research on, witness evaluation and how to choose witnesses and how do witnesses present themselves as credible or not credible. And what we've learned is there's two buckets of attributes, and that we've employed all of them, that will basically tell you the success or predict the success of an attorney in a courtroom. And a whole bunch of them are associated with likability, which we saw the array of it. Some of it comes from personal, and some of it comes from their, you know, their ability, their knowledge, and their personality, and some of it's their attraction. So it's all that combined kind of qualities, and that shapes how much you like them, because if the jurors don't like the attorney, there is no way he is getting anywhere with his case. That's what we have learned. Likability, in terms of, we're not talking about success in his story or his, you know, narrative. We're talking about association and getting the jury to work with you and to come to your side of the story. You got to get them to like you. So likability and all of those, that array of likability attributes, number one. And the second is you've got to be believable. And these are the qualities of believability. So once you can, depending on your success in those two buckets, that's the kind, you know, you have to think about, that's how the jury will probably see you. So in this case, a typical jury will love Camille and not like Elaine.
So when we talk about believable, it's about how confident you are or how knowledgeable you are.
How believable you are is how convincing you are in your argument.
So confidence is better than knowledge. Because if I can convince you to buy a boat, but doesn't mean that I don't know anything about a boat, but I can convince you. The biggest scams on the world happen with people
are all about that, are all about being
the Ponzi schemes.
Confident. Yeah. Interesting. And there's probably some sort of correlation. Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because knowledgeable, right? You really want it's true. A scam can be is a confidence scam. That's what they call it, right? It's all based on establishing confidence, and you don't have to know anything. And I'm sure, you know, in this case, I don't know what the backgrounds of Camille and Elaine were. Have they defended, you know, reputation, a defamation character, and domestic? I don't know what their background were as attorneys before they got here. So, I mean, the truth is the most interesting way to look at this data would be a pre and a post if we had an opportunity. And maybe we could do that later on, is do these measurements of credibility and measurements of likability before a trial, and then measure them after the trial is over. Or maybe, as I mentioned, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's going to be, I think she's going to be, whatever her, what's that called? Her sentence, she's going to come up for her sentencing. So I'm curious to see what the appeal is before of her lawyer doing that sentencing. And then after the sentencing is over, you know, did that change at all? Did they think she was less knowledgeable? Like she couldn't pull it off? So she's an idiot. She's not trustworthy, but she's still likable, you know? So I don't know.
I would say the Ponzi scheme is to make people to trust you, even though you don't know what you're talking about. And believe it or not, there are people who have sold the moon more than once, has sold the Eiffel Tower. They have sold the Statue of Liberty in New York. And when they went to the background, they don't have any education, any knowledge on it. So when we train sales rep, that is another of the trunks of our company training, says, oh, I don't know enough about the service. Like, you don't need to. No. You need to know. You need to look confidence in what you know. Do not concentrate on what you don't. And most people like, oh my God, the imposter syndrome. I don't know about that. Like, I don't care what you don't know. People don't know that.
Talk about the things. Exactly.
Work on the things that you know. So it's really interesting that from the behavioral standpoint and from the data, people find her confidence. I don't know if she knows everything because she did the closing with notes. She went to cross-examination with notes, and people who have notes would be look like you don't know what you're doing, so you need to be carrying notes all the time. But she was so confident in the way that she delivered the notes that people forgot that she had them.
Exactly. No, I absolutely agree. Even when we've done some of these credibility attributes and likability, we've done it in our system for presidents, for political figures, you know, for people who are, let's say, famous in their fields. And the fact whether they have any knowledge is always zero. Nobody really cares about that. That if they come across, you're absolutely right, likable and confident, that's really all you need. That makes them credible. Then you hear what they have to say and you can decide whether they're knowledgeable or trustworthy. But that initial presentation has to come off as I'm confident and, you know, I'm likable. So, and we've seen that over and over.
I know my things. Basically, let's put it this way.
What I'm doing.
If you show that you know your things, go for it. And how many times? So that brings me to fake it until you make it.
I was just going to say that.
And, but you need to be careful because when people says fake it, I always says when people says, what is the worst advice you have? Fake it until you make it if you don't know why you're faking it. So it says, oh, I'm faking to be a dude, but I'm a lady. So I need to know what I'm faking. But if I believe on what I'm doing, some people call it journaling, some people call it thoughts out there. So you need to be sure. So if
Right.
I'm presenting and says, okay, I need to look confidence, I need to look what I know, doesn't matter what I don't know, I need to fake that until make people trust me, is working better. But you need to be careful with faking until you make it if you don't know what you're faking it.
Right. It's funny because our lawyers, when they get to the courtroom, they have no idea on how we did this. So their knowledge is zero, but their confidence, the confidence they gained by working with us and seeing the data is off the charts. So, you know, and no one asks them, because they never really say, well, we're going to ask you this question because it said this and this. They formulate their questions, they choose their jury, they behave in the courtroom based on what they've learned, you know, and what we're telling them how to do that in the courtroom based on our data. So the fact that they don't have any idea how we've come to that, it has no reason, doesn't matter.
Confidence, so, the data is, again, and this show was to show you that you have influencers, you have people talking about what the other people say on the media, but at the end of the day, you are going to betray what you say. Your face, your body, your words is a package. So guys, for the ones again who you can hate us, love us, I hope you made it so far to this show so you can understand that is data, this is complex, it's not so simple. So when you're going to choose who you follow, make sure it's not a personal opinion, because that can be extremely dangerous. Here we're talking about 5, 10, 15, $100 million. When you have a case who's related to going to jail, murder, losing everything, losing your kids, losing your career, losing your trust about other people and you need to be careful. Oh, everybody loved that person. Like, wait a minute, who loved them, how they love them, and do you think everybody liked them? Let's pull the data and go further and see how much love. Everybody loved them, but it says 30% of the people love them. What happened with the other 70? Because we are measuring love, we are not measuring hate. So the way the emotion track prepare the information and the pull on that information is important. You measure in love. Okay, what about we measure in hate? When I see 30% in love, it says, okay, we need to measure hate.
Exactly.
When we measure, I don't like you, and people only 20% to 30 says, I don't like you. Okay, now I want to know how many like you, because it's the way you make the questions.
And why
language
like
is
you?
important.
How many like you and why they like you, because some of the learning is getting those bad results also, is to say, wow, you know, only 30% of the people thought I was reputable. Boy, that's not so bad. I mean, yeah, it's like a slap across the face, but that means that 70%, you've got to revisit what you're up to. You've got to, you know, somehow pivot that 70%, you know, and increase your numbers for that. So, but I'll give you one last example about confidence, lawyer confidence. So we did a test for, we do a lot of personal injury. And so the lawyer said, you know, we want to come in and we want to test, you know, 3 levels of award valuation. We have, you know, 20, 80, or 20, 60, and 40 or something like that. And I said, you know what? I said, why, you know, you have all these people, it'll be statistically significant. We have enough people in the survey. Why don't you ask them a couple intervals higher? Why, you know, end up at 60? He said, well, that's all I think I can get. And I said, well, our opportunity, the reason why we do data, we feel data, is to learn things we don't know. And I said, why don't you add, you know, an 80 and 100? And he said, very good idea. And we came back, and literally 99% of the respondents thought that he could go with a 100 million award. Okay, only he was going to go with a 40 or a 60 ask. We told him to go with 100. And because he had no idea how we got that information, he went into court with confidence and got 120. Wow. 120. And that's on case. That was a case that we have. That's like our favorite case from Morgan and Morgan.
Well, where it says, if you want to know more data, I think one of the best things that you guys have, and that's the reason we approach you, we approach emotion track because we felt that was the missing wheel to go to data is the case studies you have. It's not that you have 2 days on the market, you have case studies.
Right. Oh yeah.
We have been working on cases and we're going to keep bringing you guys, because I think that people need to understand the complexity. I think the Johnny Depp Amber is been a before and after for both companies, and like, okay guys, it's too many BS out there. But I love the case studies when people can understand. Even lawyers sometimes are agnostic about, like, I don't understand the data. I've been doing this for 30 years winning cases, but how much you lose on your case for not having the data. Like you said, I was asking for 40. Let's remember, guys, you have 33% of 120 of 40. Is the different, and for your client, more importantly, for your client.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we find, and I'll tell you, every single time, I don't know why the lawyers don't have, as we say, enough chutzpah to have up the ask. If they know that, you know, the medical bills were X amount and he's going to live for 26 more years and he's married, why wasn't your ask big? The worst that can happen is that it gets smaller. They seem to lack a little bit of confidence because they probably would get refuted by the judge, or something would say, well, you know, you're an idiot for asking that amount. But then when we add it into a survey and he sees, you know, 200 people, 300 people say, oh yeah, you can go for 40 million more than you originally were and get it, they're blown away. And that, yeah, we have a lot of success out of that. Finally getting to some data for information purposes. It's great. It's so much fun. That's why I love it.
Shelly, for the ones who see in the show today, we're going to go to Amber Heard interview, and we're going to do a couple of pieces so we can see if people trust it or not. Shelly, the good news is we're going to have you back. The bad news, you need to speed it up your performance show appearance, because we're going to have you more often, because I don't think that we can talk about behavior anymore since you
without data.
Since we have
very good call.
Since we have you guys now, it's like, okay, Susan, Elba, Susan, what is the data? We trust you, but what is the data? So we're so happy we decided to do this. This is our secret sauce that we had been hiding for a long time, but I think it's fair for you guys to understand, to be careful, to be understanding that people is manipulating you, and I own it. I'm going to take the lead on this. I own it. We have been teaching people how to do it, but when you're the general public and you read on Twitter and you see in YouTube, all these lawyers, all these influencers, all these people who are supposed to know behavior, and what they actually is giving you is misinformation. But what happened on the back of your mind is that it's your own thoughts. At the end of the day, collect the information, make your own gathering, and go to people who knows what they're doing. I don't believe in the studies done on the safety of the lab of the university, but what we do is we take the studies and the data, their use, we put it on the real world, and we help people on the real life. That's what you get when we work with people who take it out of the university and put it in real life, because university. Shelly, you're way nerd lab. You went to your PhD, your master. We haven't done it, but I don't believe the university studies on the control environment can be replicated what happened in real life.
No, you need
not
to
at all. Not at all. I just want to end with this. I did a lot of lab studies in graduate school. And if I tell you the kind of people that were attracted to show up in my lab,
sandwich and a free Coke.
Are you kidding? They wanted more. They wanted a taxi and Uber to and from their place of residence. They didn't want a sandwich. They heard other people got meals. Oh, yes. And you know what? After they were well fed, they were going to always be, they would be, kissing up to you and being in that kind of position. And it was such great bias that, on that university, it's okay if you start doing some initial research, but for the most part, you've got to put it into the business world to actually see things work and make money doing it. So that's
nothing wrong with that. You want to win? We want to win too. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely. Exactly. All right.
Kelly,
Great.
it's been a delightful
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. Yep.
Elba, I think we need to divide this show in two pieces because we still have an hour and a half of show. So I don't think people can put it up with 3 hours.
I
So
think a good way to divide it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
ladies, it's always such a
Oh,
pleasure
this was great.
to be
Thank you so
nerd,
much.
mature, badass, have it right, and use data the way you need to use. Ladies, let's make it again.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. I am so excited to be partnering with you guys going forward. This is literally the next step, both in my career personally, you know, and professionally, and what Emotion Track needs. It needs this next round. It's kind of flat in its growth, and this is the kind of experience that it needs to, you know, deliver more and get out there. And you know what? I'm on tape, not on tape. I'm a capitalist. Let's, you know, the lawyers make tons. We should be making at least half of their tons, you know?
And by the way, next one, let's make happy hour. So make
Yeah,
sure
okay.
that we're
Okay.
recorded evening.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You got it. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Take care. We'll talk on Monday.
Bye. And
Okay.
for you, our audience, we're going to see you next week. It's going to be Wednesday, Monday, Friday. We don't know. This is crazy. We says no more deep Amber Heard case, but you asked for it. And at the end of the day, this is about you, no about us. It's about you because of you. So see you next week. When subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so you never miss a show. Bye, everyone. Until next week.
Guys. Great weekend.